Have you ever felt like you're just drowning in information? You're searching for that aha moment, that real insight, but without all the overwhelm. Well, that's what we try to do here on the Deep Dive. We take a stack of sources, unpack them, and pull out the most, well, the most important nuggets of knowledge just for you.
Today, we're diving into something really personal and I think universally fascinating, the science of happiness. We're exploring how our own brains are wired for those good feelings and also, maybe more importantly, why unhappiness is actually a natural part of the whole picture. Our main guide for this deep dive is Habits of a Happy Brain by Loretta Graziano Breuning.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here is how much our basic biology shapes things, especially what the author calls our inner mammal brain. It shapes our daily emotional landscape, often without us even realizing it.
Okay.
So we'll explore those hidden drivers, behind our feelings, and crucially, how you can actually consciously retrain your brain, how you can foster new, healthier habits to boost your happy chemicals. Okay, let's unpack that then. So the core idea from the source is, it's that our brain, the one we inherited from ancestors who survived, like incredible challenges, it's wired first for survival, right?
That's exactly it. Survival first.
But how does that survival brain show up day to day
Yeah.
when we're not, running from a lion?
Well, it's interesting how broadly the brain thinks about survival.
Yeah.
The source points out it's way beyond just food and shelter. So when you're worrying about being late for a meeting, maybe, or even, like the source says, having a bad hair day, your survival brain can actually see that as a threat.
A threat. Seriously.
Yeah, like the risk of social exclusion, which, for our ancestors, that was a very real danger.
Okay. That makes sense.
So basically, your brain gives you a good feeling, a reward, when it thinks there's an opportunity for your genes to survive and thrive. And it hits you with a bad feeling, an alarm, when it thinks an opportunity is lost. But what's really crucial here is that these responses, they aren't fixed at birth. They're not hardwired. We're actually born to wire ourselves based on our life experiences. And those core neurochemical circuits, they're pretty much laid down by the time we're about 7 years old.
Wow. Okay. So early experiences are key.
Very key.
So if survival is job one, how does that connect to happiness? This thing we're all kind of chasing. The source says happiness isn't just one big feeling. It's more like a collection of feelings.
Yeah.
Triggered by 4 specific brain chemicals.
That's a great way to put it. And 4 main ones.
And they come in quick bursts, right? Not like a constant state.
Exactly. Quick spurts. That's a really important distinction. It reframes how we think about happiness. So let's start with dopamine. Most people think of it as the reward chemical, right? That eureka, I got it feeling.
Yeah, the pleasure hit.
Well, what's really interesting from this source is that dopamine isn't actually about getting the reward itself. It's more about the anticipation, the thrill of the chase, you could say.
Okay. Like seeing the finish line.
Exactly. The marathon runner seeing the finish line or the ape spotting a piece of fruit and heading towards it, the good feeling is in the pursuit.
That explains a lot. Okay, what about endorphin then?
Endorphin. That gives you a feeling of oblivion almost. It masks physical pain, often called euphoria.
Like the runner's high?
Precisely. The runner's high when you push past your limits. Or the source uses the example of a zebra getting away from a lion that burst, helps it ignore the pain and escape.
Wow. Okay. And oxytocin, that's the bonding one, right? Connection.
Yeah, exactly. Oxytocin is that feeling of being safe with others, social bonding. It gets stimulated by touch, by trust, holding hands, feeling supported by your group.
Like the horse relaxing in its herd.
Right. Safety in numbers, essentially.
And the last one, serotonin. What's its job in this mix?
Serotonin gives you that feeling of being respected by others. You could call it pride or social importance. The source gives examples like a piglet succeeding in getting nourishment over another, or just getting a nod of approval, maybe, from someone you see as important. It's about your place in the social hierarchy.
Got it. So dopamine, endorphin, oxytocin, serotonin, 4 distinct flavors of good feelings.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. These chemicals don't just flow whenever you want them to. Your brain only releases a happy chemical when it sees a way to meet a perceived survival need.
Only then.
Only then. And even then, it's just a quick spurt, then it resets.
Wow.
Like the author says, there is no free happy chemical in the state of nature. It's always earned in a way.
So it's nature's operating system.
Yeah.
It's just constantly pushing us to do things that help us or our genes survive.
That's the core idea. It's always about survival, ultimately.
Okay, this is fascinating, especially how these experiences, these chemical bursts, actually wire our brains. Can you talk more about how that works, how experiences physically change us?
Absolutely. The source uses a great analogy. Think of your brain's pathways like trails in the woods. Every time you have an experience, especially one with a strong emotional charge, neurochemicals flow. It's like paving that trail, turning a dirt path into, eventually, a paved road.
So repetition makes the road smoother, faster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Repeated activation turns these paths into neural superhighways. They become the path of least resistance for your thoughts and feelings. And this creates what the author calls your neural guidance system.
A guidance system, built without us even really planning it.
Pretty much, yeah. Built largely without conscious intent, especially in childhood.
So it's like our brain develops its own autopilot system.
You got it. Which is super efficient, right? Helps us navigate the world quickly.
No. There's a catch, I assume.
There's always a catch. Yeah, this efficiency means it can sometimes lead us down paths we don't actually want to be on anymore. You might find yourself liking things that aren't really good for you, or maybe fearing things that are actually okay.
Like the examples in the source. Avoiding math because someone laughed at you years ago.
Right. Or maybe overeating pizza because you associate it with a moment of kindness from a parent.
Ah.
Those old circuits are just so efficient, so easy to travel down, that breaking out of them is really hard.
So, okay, we've got this survival brain, these fleeting, happy chemicals, and these pathways getting paved, often without our say-so.
Yeah.
But the good news, you said, is that we can build new pathways. It's not set in stone.
Definitely not set in stone. You absolutely can build new pathways.
Well, it's harder than when we were kids, right?
Oh, yeah, much harder. The source compares it to, like, slashing your way through a dense rainforest with a machete.
Wow, okay. That's vivid.
It takes huge effort, right?
Right.
And if you don't keep using that new path, the jungle just grows back over it really quickly.
So consistency is key.
Crucial. That's why the source talks about needing courage and focus and repeating a new behavior for, say, 45 days.
45 days, even if it doesn't feel good initially.
Especially if it doesn't feel good initially, because you're fighting against those super efficient old highways.
Right, right. That makes sense.
So this brings up a really important question. If happiness feels good and helps survival, why do we have unhappiness? Why did that evolve?
Yeah, why does the brain create bad feelings too?
Well, the source frames unhappiness not as some kind of mistake, but as a vital part of the system.
Yeah.
Think of unhappy chemicals as nature's alarm system. They're essential. They grab your attention, point out threats, obstacles.
Okay, like pain.
Exactly. Cortisol, especially. That's your body's big emergency alert. It creates that feeling we call stress or pain, and it makes you focus intensely on making it stop.
Which is useful, obviously, if there's a real danger.
Absolutely. But the challenge comes, like the source points out, when a happy chemical spurt ends.
Uh-huh.
You feel that dip, you feel like something's wrong, and your brain immediately looks for a quick, reliable way to feel good again. Fast.
And it goes back to whatever worked before.
Whatever worked before, because that pathway is already paved.
Which leads to the vicious cycles the author talks about.
Precisely. So the example given is maybe you feel bad about something your boss said. You're at your desk feeling stressed. You want that bad feeling gone. So maybe you reach for a donut. Why? Because fat and sugar triggered happy chemicals in our evolutionary past. Survival signals.
Right. Even though you consciously know the donut won't fix the boss problem.
Exactly. But it provides a momentary distraction, a little chemical relief, and boom, you've just reinforced the pathway. Feeling bad at desk, eat donut.
Oh, man. That's insidious.
It really is. And the problem gets worse because, remember, happy chemicals don't last.
Right. The spurts are short.
So to get more relief, you have to do more of the thing. Eat another donut or find something else. This is why those fast, easy, happy chemical fixes often have, well, negative side effects in the long run.
Yeah.
The source mentions a study with monkeys. They got juice rewards, and at first their dopamine levels soared. They were excited.
Okay.
But pretty soon, the excitement dropped off. They got used to it. And then when the researchers took the juice away completely,
What happened?
fits of rage, absolute fury.
Wow.
It shows how we take rewards for granted once they're regular, but we get really upset when they're withdrawn. That drop feels bad.
That dopamine disappointment.
Exactly. And that's why people talk about chasing the first high, right? Whether it's drugs, gambling, or even falling in love.
Ah, yeah, that pattern definitely applies to love too, doesn't it?
For sure. Love feels like this huge rush of happy chemicals initially because, well, finding a mate is incredibly relevant to gene survival.
Makes sense.
So the source talks about how dopamine fuels that initial chase, finding the one. Oxytocin creates trust through touch and bonding, and serotonin connects to the pride of associating with someone you admire, someone with status, perhaps.
Right. But then reality sets in. Love disappoints sometimes.
It inevitably does, in small ways or big ways. And when that happens, cortisol kicks in, that stress chemical.
The alarm bell.
Yeah, signaling a threat to your well-being, essentially. And it helps your brain rewire, motivates you to maybe seek connection elsewhere or adjust expectations. It all loops back to survival.
Okay, so if we get caught in these cycles, driven by cortisol when the happy chemicals dip, how do we break free? How do we stop the cycle?
Well, the source suggests something simple, but definitely not easy.
Okay.
You can stop the cycle, potentially in one instant, by resisting that urge. That do something now to make the bad feeling stop feeling.
Just sit with the cortisol. Feel the discomfort.
Exactly. Live with it for a moment, which is hard, right? Because cortisol is designed to scream for your attention. It feels like an emergency.
Yeah, it really does.
But if you can tolerate it, even briefly, without reacting in the old way, you teach your brain something profound.
What's that?
That the threatened feeling, the cortisol itself, won't actually kill you.
It feels like it might, but it won't.
Right, and that creates space. It weakens the old pathway and opens up the possibility for a new, more virtuous cycle to form. It takes real courage, though.
It definitely sounds like it takes courage. And maybe understanding how the brain actually wires itself helps build that courage. Knowing what's physically happening.
I think so, yeah. Understanding the mechanisms makes it less mysterious, maybe less intimidating.
So the source talks about 5 ways the brain builds wiring. They explain why change is hard. Maybe you could highlight 1 or 2 key ones.
Sure. One really important one is myelin. Think of it like insulation around an electrical wire.
Okay.
Neurons that get used repeatedly develop this fatty coating myelin, and it makes the signal travel much, much faster and more efficiently.
So the pathways we use most become super fast highways.
Exactly. And this myelination happens really rapidly in childhood, and then again during puberty, which is a big reason why those early habits and ways of thinking become so deeply ingrained and automatic, so efficient.
And hard to change later.
Very hard to change. Another related point is that the brain actually prunes connections that aren't used.
Prunes them, like trimming a bush.
Yeah, it gets rid of unused neurons and synapses. This actually makes the brain more efficient overall, helps you process information faster based on past experience.
But the downside is?
The downside is it streamlines your thinking. It makes you really good at, as the source puts it, seeing what you have already seen.
It can make it literally harder to see new possibilities or think in new ways.
Precisely. Your brain gets optimized for the familiar.
Wow. That physical reality is sobering. But also, you said this understanding reveals our free will. How so?
Because even with these powerful default pathways, we
Yeah.
have the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of our brain.
Right.
And that part can inhibit impulses. It can consciously shift your attention. You're not just a slave to those old animal impulses or ingrained habits.
So we always have a choice, even if it's hard.
You are always, in a sense, deciding, are you going to go with the flow of that familiar, easy circuit, or are you going to consciously divert your mental energy, your electricity, somewhere else, even if that new path feels awkward or uncomfortable at first?
Okay, so we have the power. We just need to know how to use it.
Exactly.
So armed with all this knowledge, the chemicals, the wiring, the survival brain, how can someone listening right now actually start building new happy habits? The source offers these specific remodeling projects, right, tied to each chemical with that 45-day commitment.
Yes, practical steps you can take.
Let's talk about dopamine. What are some ways to build new dopamine habits? Maybe ones that aren't immediately obvious.
Well, for dopamine, it's less about massive achievements, surprisingly. It's more about celebrating the small steps, like really acknowledge small victories every single day, no matter how tiny they seem.
Okay.
Break down a big, maybe unpleasant task into really small chunks, like 10-minute segments, and feel good about finishing each chunk. The key is to keep adjusting the challenge level, the bar, so it feels just right. Not boringly easy, but not overwhelmingly hard. That keeps the anticipation, the dopamine flowing.
Keep it engaging. Got it. What about endorphin habits beyond just, running a marathon?
Yeah, endorphins aren't just for extreme exertion. The source suggests actively seeking out real deep laughter, The kind that makes your stomach hurt, you know?
Yeah, I like that one.
It works. And also, maybe counterintuitively, allowing yourself to have a good cry sometimes.
Hmm.
It can release tension and trigger endorphins.
Ah, interesting.
And varying your exercise. Try something new to work different muscles. Make it fun, not a chore. Stretching daily, even just gentle stretching, can provide mild relief too.
Okay. Now, oxytocin, building connection and trust. What's a good starting point, especially if trusting others feels hard?
Oh, for new oxytocin circuits, the advice is often to start small, maybe with proxy trust.
Proxy trust, like,
Like building a bond with a pet, or even finding supportive online communities, digital friends. It helps expand your capacity for connection in a safer space.
okay.
Then the source talks about placing stepping stones.
Right.
That means initiating very small, low-risk positive interactions, maybe with people you find difficult, gradually building trust.
Baby steps.
Tiny baby steps. And crucially, being trustworthy yourself. Honor your commitments, big and small. That builds a foundation. Oh, and get a massage. Even self-massage can stimulate oxytocin.
Good tip. Okay, finally, serotonin circuits. That feeling of pride and respect.
Yeah.
How do we cultivate that?
This one can be tough for people. For new serotonin circuits, the source says, dare to express pride in what you've accomplished. Actually say, hey, look what I did.
Yeah, that can feel uncomfortable.
It can, but it's important. Also, consciously try to enjoy your social position, whatever it is, in the moment, without constant comparison to others.
Just appreciate where you are.
Yeah. Notice your influence, however small, and
Yeah.
maybe make peace with something you can't control. Like, try cooking without a recipe or ignore the clock for a day. It builds a sense of agency.
Okay, those are really practical starting points.
Mhm.
But even knowing all this, it's still hard sometimes, right? The source talks about internal obstacles, the reasons we don't choose these new habits.
Absolutely. We have all sorts of rationalizations, don't we?
Yeah, what are some common ones?
Well, things like believing, oh, I can't lower my standards, or I shouldn't have to try to be happy, or even feeling like it's selfish to focus on your own happiness.
Right.
The source argues these often just mask a deeper neurochemical habit, maybe a familiar cortisol loop, and focusing on your own well-being actually isn't selfish. It builds resilience, makes you more capable of helping others, not less.
That's a good point. What else?
Other common ones are fear-based thoughts, like, I need to be prepared for the worst all the time, or I know I won't be able to stick with this new habit anyway.
Yeah, the self-sabotage thinking.
Exactly. Those are just old, ingrained fear circuits talking. And the reality is, constantly focusing on potential threats doesn't actually make you safer. Happiness, that feeling of resourcefulness, actually provides a much better cushion for life's inevitable bumps.
Okay. Any others?
Yeah, the big ones like, how can anyone be happy when the world is so flawed? Or the classic, I'll be happy when I get the promotion, when I lose weight, when I find a partner.
The destination happiness trap.
You got it. These trap you. You're either focused on everything wrong or pinning your hopes on some future event, which stops you finding or creating good feelings now. As the author says, you feed the dream by hating your reality, which just keeps you stuck.
Wow. That's powerful. But ultimately, the message is you are the master of your own neural network.
Yes.
When those unhappy chemicals flow, when cortisol screams, you do have the power, even if it's hard, to choose a different path for your mental energy.
That's the core message of hope, I think. You have agency.
So to help exercise that agency on this 35-day rewiring journey, the source offers these circuit training tools, like mental tools we always have with us.
Yeah, real useful concepts.
Which ones stand out to you as being particularly powerful or maybe less obvious?
Well, I think balance is a really interesting one. Yeah, the idea is to consciously work on developing the happy chemicals you're not naturally strongest in. So if you're very achievement-driven, lots of dopamine maybe, try consciously building oxytocin through connection. Or if you're very bonded, maybe push yourself towards small serotonin-boosting achievements. Step outside your comfort zone chemically. Ah, I like that. Stretch yourself. Exactly. Another one is satisfy. Satisfice. Like, be satisfied. Sort of. It means embracing solutions that are good enough rather than constantly striving for the absolute perfect, optimized outcome in everything, which can be exhausting and frustrating. Totally. That endless optimization often leads to disappointment. So learning to accept good enough can actually boost happiness.
Yeah.
And one more. Visualize.
Visualizing success.
Kind of. It's about staying committed to your new habit by mentally picturing those new neural pathways forming in your brain. Even when you don't see outward results yet, imagine the rewiring happening. It reinforces the effort. That's cool, using the brain's own mechanisms to encourage change.
Right.
And underlying all these tools, there's this fundamental idea the source really emphasizes. Just letting in the good.
Yes, that is so crucial because our brains have this negativity bias,
Yeah.
right? We're wired to notice threats and learn from mistakes. It's a survival mechanism.
Focus on what went wrong.
Exactly. But the source points out, animals don't really sit around dwelling on their mistakes. Our highly developed cortex, though, loves to analyze and magnify flaws.
Guilty as charged.
We all are. The author shares these great stories from traveling in Africa and China and suddenly realizing how much she took for granted back home.
Like what?
Like reliable flush toilets, dams providing power, safe roads, clean food, modern medicine, just the basic infrastructure of safety and comfort.
Things we just expect.
Things we expect and often complain about when they're slightly imperfect. The takeaway is huge. When you focus on the flaws, you miss the enormity of what goes right.
That's worth remembering. Letting in the good.
Yeah. Actively looking for it and appreciating it.
So wrapping this all up, what does it mean for you listening right now? Life is always going to involve choices, trade-offs. Like the source says, picking from a box of chocolates, you get one, you don't get the others. Our brain builds expectations. Reality doesn't always match up. That can lead to disappointment.
They can.
But the suggestion here is that you can choose. You can make a habit of seeing the good in what you have chosen in your current reality, rather than constantly lamenting what you missed out on or don't have yet.
That's the choice point. It's about managing the brain we've inherited, this amazing, complex, survival-focused brain. And this deep dive really shows, I think, that you don't need constant peak experiences to cultivate happiness. It's okay to have dips.
Yeah.
Those dips in happy chemicals, that cortisol signal, it's just your inner mammal trying to look out for you based on old wiring. You can learn to recognize it, not panic, and not necessarily obey its frantic commands.
Right. Understand the signal without being controlled by it.
Exactly. The real challenge, but also the real gift of having this conscious brain is choosing to manage your own happy chemicals, to consciously build those new pathways. So the question for you is, what small, courageous step will you take today? Maybe just for the next 10 minutes, to start rewiring your brain for a happier, healthier you, even if it feels a bit awkward or uncomfortable or just new.
A great question to end on. That's it for this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of the mind.